welcome to the Paper Snob. This is Tara. Today I'm going to be working on Mixed Media Mayhem. This is a monthly hop that they have on the Mixed Media Mayhem group. I know that they also do weekly inspirational layouts too, and many of the ladies do record those as well. I just participate once a month at the end of the month in the Mixed Media Mayhem hop. So today's layout, I'm going to post this up here in the corner. Cannot remember who originally created it off the top of my head, but I will put that information below as soon as I find it. So I have a hot mess of product sitting here on my desk. This layout, as you can see, has tons of different mixed media options, and I'm not one to shy away from playing with my stuff. So let me show you what I have. First off, I have the molding paste. Golden is the brand that I tend to steer towards. I have some paint, and I have some pieces of grunge board. She has something similar on the layout, and I thought that I would go ahead and paint this with either of these two colors. I haven't decided which. And then go ahead and put them on my layout. The stencil for the molding paste. And I have some inks. I have Saltwater Taffy, Salty Ocean, and Bundled Sage. All three are Distress Oxides. The reason that I chose those is because they actually match the cruise kit that we used on my cruise back in February. We got a kit full of stuff, and that's the color scheme. And I'm going to be doing a photo from Junkanoo Beach that I have not scrapbooked yet for my cruise album. I have my large acrylic block for stamps. I have these geotags from Studio Calico. These are fairly ancient. 2013 is what the packaging says. Yes, they're unopened. We've got a couple of tags because she has tags on the original layout. I have some stamps here, and I'm thinking of using this one and these by 49 and Market, which were a freebie in 2022's We Create luxury crop that is put on by Scrapbook Generation every September. These are either Freckled Fawn alphas or Hip Kit. I'm going to go with Freckled Fawn. They are not opened. I've pulled them out several times for different layouts and have not used them. This is the photo that I'm going to be scrapbooking. I have some twine. It is Craft and White, and I have my archival ink, acid-free permanent and waterproof ink, because we're going to be doing some stamping here on this layout. So, oh, and I have my Prima type flowers. I keep these in baggies. Janet Madison over at RTS Scrapbooking does the same thing with her flowers. She keeps them in these Ziploc bags, bicolor, and then in a photo box, like the one that you can get at Michael's, Hobby Lobby, or Joann's, on sale for a pretty good price. And so that I adopted that method of storing my flowers, and honestly, it has helped me use them better. I have some white cardstock. This is the Joann's cardstock that I tend to grab the most often for mixed media. I do have a Vicki Boutin Foundations paper pad that I could use, but I thought I'd just go ahead and use this piece here. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with this mixed media. I'm going to start with the stamping first because that's what it looks like the original creator did with her layout, and so I'm going to do that as well. I will be right back. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and start with the stamping, and this is going to be more random than anything else. I'm going to start with this dotted stamp from my Tim Holtz stamp set. I really like this stamp. I've used it a couple of other times, and I really, really like it. It can give a grungy look if that's what you're going for, or you can do with the black and you'll have a more I don't know what the word I'm looking for, a more vibrant color to go with the colors that you've chosen. Because I'm going to be choosing some very bright colors, I like the idea of having the black because it helps it to stand out somewhat. And I just did a second generation stamp there, and now I'm going to do another first generation stamp just below it. And I know that some of my stamping is absolutely going to get covered up, and I'm okay with that because I'm just wanting the hint of these stamped images on here. Now these wave pool things, or whatever they're called, I thought looked a lot like water. And so I'm going to use the large one first, and these have not been used before. They do not stamp well. I don't know. I did rub them on my jeans first, but it must not have been enough. I will play with them a little bit better another time, but because this is a mixed media layout, this doesn't really matter that much to me. I'm just wanting a little bit of the stamp. I don't care if it's crisp or not. And ironically, the second image is not crisp either, so I'm not sure what the deal is with these stamps. Like I said, I've never used them. I got them almost 2 years ago, 18 months ago, and hadn't used them yet, so this is the first time. I'm going to go ahead and grab the second one, and I'm going to put that on here as well. But first, this is kind of a peek at how I store my stamps. I will put the backing on a piece of white cardstock, and then I will put the little label thing that the stamp goes on onto that using my ATG, and then that whole thing will end up in the Avery L style envelope. I believe I'm using something called Linksys and not Avery L right now. They're cheaper, and frankly I think they're better quality. They don't seem to rip as easily as the Avery L ones. Anyway, now I'm going to use the smaller stamp in the set and get a few more stamped images. Now after I get the stamping done, I am going to be adding some texture paste, and it is a light texture paste, so the stamping does still kind of show through after I get the stamping, or the stencil, after I use the texture paste with my stencil. You may be wondering what I'm doing. I am setting everything in the floor behind me, and I will clean up after I finish this process. So this is the stencil that I'm going to use. I don't remember where it came from. It is about 8.5 by 12 inches, maybe 9 by 12 inches, and I'm just going to use the middle. Her layout also had random circles. I doubt that it's the same stencil, but as far as I was concerned, it was close enough. And you know, I could have used any stencil that I wanted. I could have come in with one of my Vicky Bouton wave stencils. I've got several water stencils from her collections in my stash. But really, I didn't want to have to move things around, so I used that one. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of this Bo Bunny paint on this grunge board. I don't know if you've ever played with grunge board, but it is really fun to play with it. It's very flexible, and it takes different media very, very well. I have used ink, I've used paint, I've used watercolors, I've used sprays, I've used texture paste on them. And this is just a scrap of something that I had played with before, and I just cut it apart. The original layout has 4 of similar things like this, and all I'm going to have room for is 2. But you will see when I get to putting this layout together that I have plenty of things on this layout, so it isn't a big deal. So the next step I'm going to do, rather than matte or scuff up the edges of this photo, I'm going to put some gold paint around the edge. I thought that would be fun to do. I haven't done this in a while, and I just thought this would be really fun. And so I'm just using the sponge type brush, and I'm adding the paint directly onto it. There's no rhyme or reason. It does kind of get messy and a little bit wonky, and you know what? I really like how this looks in the end, and this is just something that is really fun to play with. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little brush. I think this is a type of makeup brush that I bought, and it is really, really rough. I would never put this on my face, but okay. Anyway, I'm using it to just brush on some of this darker gray archival ink just to give this a little bit more grungy look. I love the way this looks in the end. I know this is a very subtle look, but it's also a very fun one. So now I have let that texture paste dry long enough, and I'm going to start adding some ink to put some color onto this background. The original layout only has black and yellow, and I am wanting to pull in all of the colors that we used on our cruise pages, because this is going to end up in my cruise album. And so these are the ink colors that we used. On some of the inks we used Distress rather than Oxide, but I pulled in all oxides, and I'm just going to put just a little bit of color here. Now what I'm doing here is because the ink smooshing didn't get it into that texture paste the way I wanted, so I'm just taking my brush and I'm brushing it on a little bit just to give it a little bit more color to make it less subtle. I'll wipe that down. I'll wipe off my brush on a baby wipe, and then I'm going to go ahead and go to the next color. I know you can't see as well kind of off there to the right, but I'm just cleaning my brush at this point and grabbing the next color. This is Bundled Sage in Distress Oxide, and I'm adding the water to it, and then I'm going to get the packaging. I'm going to have to cut it in half because it's a pretty large piece. I've said this before, the smaller the piece of packaging that you use, the more control that you have over where you put the ink on your page. And so typically with something like this, I would use a smaller piece just so that I could control exactly where I would like it to be. And again, it isn't going on that texture paste kind of in the way that I intended it to. So I do, again, bring in the paintbrush, and I use the paintbrush to dab and kind of get it down into the crevices of that texture paste so that once it's dry, you can really see that. And again, I know that she only used one color on her. Her color kind of went diagonally across the page, but you're going to see that the salty ocean that I'm going to use does that. It is going to be used on those last two places, and that's going to be that diagonal look that she's put on hers. And this is a much brighter color, so it will draw your eye across the page much like her yellow did. And the reason that I chose to do this was so that I would be able to draw your eye across the page in that fashion. I'm really trying to get it on the edges, and I am making a huge mess. Y'all, you gotta see the picture of my bathroom after I cleaned up this mess. I had paintbrushes and stencils and stamps all drying in my bathroom on my bathroom sink. It's probably a good thing my husband's not home because that kind of annoys him a little bit. Anyway, so I'm doing the same thing. I'm adding the rest of the color right there on the background with the paintbrush. I am now ready to start building this layout. Now you might be wondering, what on earth is she doing with this piece of empty chipboard packaging? I'm going to use it in the place of foam adhesive. And so I am going to be cutting down this piece, and then I'm going to use it just like I would with fun foam on the back. It lifts that picture up just a little bit and allows me to tuck things underneath. And you're going to see me on a struggle bus here in a little bit because it takes some time to get things tucked and things are moving, and I have some pretty bulky bits and pieces here that I am playing with, and so I'll get it kind of where I want it to go, and then I'm going to shut the camera off to glue things down because nobody needs to see the struggle that I went through getting things stuck down. Wow, that was a hot mess. Anyway, she had at least 3 tags on her layout. I'm putting 3 tags on mine, kind of putting them in the similar places that she had hers. They make a very good layering element. Now I'm tucking in my colored grunge board that has now had plenty of time to dry. And this little piece that you saw me stick down that says now, it actually says Monday. but if you turn it upside down, it says now, and I will never use it as Monday because I just don't use days of the week typically on my scrapbook layouts unless for some reason I've scrapbooked something specific about a day of a week. Anyway, this little mess, I struggled with this twine. I have to rewrap it here in a minute because I didn't get the circle large enough, but you're going to kind of get the idea. Once I get it laid down, it does move a lot, but I do get it adhered down, and this is where I realized it is way too small, and so I have to take it apart and do it again. And frankly, if I'd left it that size, it would have been easier to manage, but nope, I had to make it larger, and I didn't want to cut more, and it really needed to be larger than it was to begin with, but I did not want to start over, so I just used what I cut. Now I've got it kind of the size that I'd like it to be. This is a fun way to do it. I don't know that I have ever done a circle this large before, and so see, I'm really struggling here with that circle, but I'm just going to do some tucking. Now, those burlap rosebuds, they're really pretty and they're really bulky, and they've been in my stash forever. They go with those pieces of wire that you can also see to the right hand side. There's 3 of those on there, and they came in the same pack. I think they were from Hobby Lobby or maybe even Michael's, but I've had them forever and I just want them gone. So they're going on this layout, and I will be quite happy with the result. So I took the flowers, and some of them had centers and some of them didn't. The ones that didn't, I went ahead and put brads through them. So in that process, I ended up using quite a few of my brads, which makes me happy because I don't always reach for those. And so it's really nice to use some of the products that you don't always reach for. Now, she had a phrase on the underside of her photo, and mine kind of gets put there in the end. That one that you saw me lay down right there is not going to stay. I will move it. And again, like I said, I'm just kind of tucking things, trying to get an idea for placement. I pulled out quite a few flowers, and my goal is to absolutely use every single flower that I pulled, so I do not have to put anything away because I already put the baggies back in the box. And so I don't want to get them back out. So I moved that title or that little phrase down because I'm going to put my title here. Now, originally I thought I was going to get Junkanoo Beach on here. It is not going to fit. I'm not going to make it fit. And I also end up moving it over to the left when I shut the video camera off to glue. But this is about where it ends up. So it's just going to say Junkanoo, and then I have a couple of more little chipboard phrases. One says beach life, the other one says I wish I could stay here forever, and the other one says where I belong. And those all came from Freckled Fawn embellishment kits from quite a while ago. So now I am just kind of tucking things around, trying to get things where I think they belong. Okay, I got this layout glued down. It was a little bit more difficult than I was expecting. This twine was really hard for me to get glued down. I ended up using Nuvo Deluxe glue and a couple of glue dots just to anchor it, so it's loose in some places like around here. And I'll probably, as the next few days go along, I'll probably go through and add a little bit more Nuvo Deluxe just to make sure that it's firmly glued down. These wire pieces, I ended up using glue lines wrapped around the flat end. These large rosebuds, I had to cut off the long bits that you saw me having trouble with and making them shorter, and I used glue lines on those as well. All of the flowers, I've used a combination of a glue dot and wet glue both, simply because the glue dot gets it held down immediately, the wet glue dries, and then it's on there for good. I am pretty happy with the way this turned out. I did have to move my title over just a tad because it was too long for this string, and I did not want to have to cut more of the twine to make it larger because I was running out of real estate, and I wanted to get what I cut used. So otherwise, I'm pretty happy with this layout. I don't think I'm going to need to do any journaling on this page. The title tells you where it's going in my cruise album. The album itself will have dates on it, so that tells the when and where, and I think that is good enough. I may write something on the back, we'll see. But first I just got to make sure that everything is going to stay in its place. So I want to thank you so much for coming to my channel today. I really appreciate those of you who take the time to like, comment, and or subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions about anything that I have done, any technique that I've done in this video, just drop them below and I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. Thank you again for being here, and I'll see you next time. Bye.